Hi, I'm Jake here at Better Music, and today I'm very excited to be showing you the Expressive E Osmos. So this is a synthesizer, but unlike any other synthesizer on the market, this is by far the most expressive synthesizer I've ever played. I believe that the Osmos has absolutely nailed it, because similarly you get the expression of something like the C-board, but you actually have physical keys here, so there is less of a barrier between playing a regular keyboard and playing something like this. So essentially in the keybed there are sensors the whole way through the note, and what that kind of lends itself to is detecting whether or not you hit the note really hard, if you play it really softly, if you let go of the note really quickly, and it can detect, the slightest touch on the actual keyboard itself. The additional thing there is with, say, the pitch bend wheel, is instead of it being just a wheel, you've actually got it on the notes themselves. So what this means is the pitch is then determined by moving the note either left or right. Which means that you can do vibrato very, very easily on the actual note itself instead of having to wheel the pitch bend wheel over there. The other thing here is that this is per note. Each of the notes have their own separate pitch value. So let's say you wanted to hold the G note and then have an octave above. And only have this one manipulate its pitch, then only that note will, and this one will be held, which is amazing, and it's really expressive. So the next form of expression that this keyboard is capable of is pressure. This denotes whether the note is being pressed really hard or being pressed really softly. And here's a really good preset for showing this off. And so similarly to the pitch bend, this function is per note. So if you wanted one to be manipulated by the pressure, and you just kind of want to lightly hold the other, you can. So this keyboard is also capable of detecting how hard and how quickly you press the note and release them. That also leads into being able to manipulate the articulation of the sound just based on how you're actually playing. So as an example, we've got this preset where if I slowly play and then release it, it's much more different from if I were to really quickly play and release it, and you get a different articulation from that. those two. And so additionally, like all of the other expressions before, this is per note. So let's say, for instance, you wanted to hold a chord. The articulation is different from when you're softly playing to when you're hitting the notes hard on the opposite end of the keyboard. Now this expression isn't only limited to the keyboard itself, but you also have two pedal inputs on the actual keyboard, so you can use additional expression keyboard. You can use additional expression. I've said expression a lot. The expression isn't also limited to the keyboard itself, because you also have two pedal inputs on the keyboard, which you can use to have either an expression pedal, sustain pedal, and you can assign them to any of the parameters that you naturally would be able to with the actual keys themselves. So that adds another layer to playing to activate these forms of expression. I've hooked up an expression pedal and a sustain pedal, so what I'm going to do is just yeah, so it's powered by Hacken Audio. It's the AGAN Matrix sound technology. And so a lot of the options that you have here really come down to swapping different presets. It has a really neat kind of preset browser, so you can just cycle through from alphabetical order A to Z, going through all of the presets. If you're after particular kind of sounds, it has all of those loaded up as well. So you've got things like bass, brass, bowed, flutes, keys. In the second section of this, you've also got the synthesizer side of things, which really allow you to tonally shift how the sound actually sounds. It allows you to change the effects that are being applied to the signal. Got EQs in there, so you can kind of tonally shift it if you wanted it to be kind of brighter, darker, that kind of stuff. It has a compressor, which can be used if you want to kind of just bring down the dynamics, because a lot of these sounds are really, really dynamic. So, you know, they can start really quiet and get really loud. And so that can kind of help you bring those together. Also then got controls over, you know, the mod and sustain pedals and what functions they kind of control. Then you've got the next section, which is the sensitivity. And this really just comes down to your own personal preference. So you can determine how sensitive some of these expression functions are, if you wanted them to be super, super sensitive, or, you know, you have to play really hard. You can kind of change that to be any of the kind of functions. So how sensitive the bending is when you're wiggling the keys, how sensitive the pressure is, so when you're actually aftertouch sensitivity, and all of those kind of good things. And then the last section is the playing section. The couple options that you have available at the moment are None, Arpeggiator, and Glide. Now Glide is really, really cool, and I'll kind of show this off. So the great thing with the Glide is you can then set, let's say, the octave. So we will change this to, there we go, full keyboard. And what you can do then is basically trade pitches of notes. So the really cool thing with this is, let's say I'm pressing this note down, and then I want to glide it up to a different note. As you're pulling the other note out, you push the other one down, and it's kind of like a trade for note. Now, the other thing that you can do as well here is change when glide is kind of applied, and so what range. So if you wanted to kind of constrain it so that glide isn't always being applied as you're playing, you can change it to, let's say, 2 semitones. So then it doesn't glide up to anything else that's out of that range, which can be really handy if you're playing certain leads and you don't want kind of glide to be applied all the time. If we look on to another section in the playing side of things, we have the arpeggiator. Now this changes it from being the kind of expressive keyboard into an arpeggiator. How this kind of works is if you hold down a chord, it'll cycle through them as an arpeggiator. Now, you can set it so that certain pressures or certain bends can change how that arpeggiator acts. For instance, if I go to aftertouch octave, so then you can control a whole bunch of different arpeggiation styles. So if you wanted the arpeggiator to be more swingy or it to be ratcheted, you can. And then my personal favorite, which is the harp strum, it kind of treats it as if you were playing a harp. You can assign different functions of the keyboards to do different things from the arpeggiation style. So if you wanted to remove the wiggling the notes and the bend part of the actual keyboard and have that determine the octave of the arp as well, you can do that. So while this keyboard functions on its own as a standalone synthesizer, not only that, but all of this that's been applied in principle, you can apply to any software that is compatible with MPE. So with this button here, you can change it to just external MIDI, so it turns the sound engine off and it acts as a MIDI keyboard. From here, you can change what protocol it sends out to other keyboards. So if something's compatible with MPE, you can have this being sent to an MPE device. Let's say it's just like a vintage synthesizer which doesn't have any kind of like aftertouch or expression or anything like that. You can set it as a classic keyboard. If you wanted to, you could have it just be poly aftertouch. And then you also have multi-channel mode, which with certain devices, if you can set the inputs to take multiple channels of a MIDI signal, then you can effectively hack it and make it function as an MPE device. So this is kind of just an overview of the kind of functionality that you can get out of this thing. We've kind of, just glanced over a lot of the functions without going really in depth. So if you guys would love a comprehensive video on everything that this synth can do, I would happily sit here and play this synthesizer for you because I am absolutely in love with it. It is a fantastic synthesizer. So this has been the Expressive E Osmos. If you have any inquiries about it, feel free to give us a call, shoot us an email, or even see us in store. My name is Jake, and thanks for watching.